Welcome to the Science of Gratitude podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Valerie Mukanga, and each week we'll explore how gratitude transforms our lives through powerful stories and insights. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Science of Gratitude podcast. I have an amazing, mind-blowing guest for you today. She is none other than Melissa Ambrozkiewicz. And I don't want to take too much time before we start in because she has great things to tell us. So could you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Ambrozkiewicz. I'm originally from Mexico, but currently living in Europe with my husband. And I met Valerie recently at a conference, and we just connected and clicked, and God brought us together. And for that, I'm very grateful.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. It was really one of a kind, encounter. We were just standing in line at this fantastic conference, and then we just kind of like chit-chatted, and all of a sudden we just really connected. And I'm grateful for that. I'm really grateful for that just as well. So tell me a little bit, in your own word, what does gratitude mean to you, and how has it affected your life?
Well, I feel like gratitude is something that, is not just being thankful, is a state of mind. It's something that we have to work on. It doesn't come easily, to us human beings. We have to work on it, and then it becomes just like a lifestyle. When you're trying to become fit, and you at the gym, and the healthy eating habits and everything is just that way as well. If you're trying to live a healthy life, to me, it wouldn't make sense if you're not adding gratitude to it. Then what are you doing? Because to me, it's just the base of everything. And God speaks about it in the Bible as well. And Paul also says that, if we come with thanksgiving, that comes first before we even, approach Jesus and God with a petition. So, it just involves, I think, recognizing and acknowledging that, the positive aspects in our life, and focusing on what we currently have, not focusing on what we don't have yet.
Right.
It doesn't mean that we're not going to achieve it. We're not going to get there. It's just at the moment, let's just be grateful for what it is in the present and hopeful for what's going to be in the future.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you when you say, that gratitude is not necessarily easy. Obviously, there's some things that, we're grateful for, and you just think about the fact that you're breathing. I'm grateful. But for some things, it's like you have to go and dish it out. Like you have to go and pull it up, from the gutters, something to be grateful for. I'm saying that. I agree with you.
Well, yes, because when we have challenges, sometimes our simple minds, our human minds just tend to focus on that black dot that is currently there instead of the bigger picture, and instead of the things that we already possess. So, it's not easy. It doesn't come easy to all of us, but it's just something that we just have to, continually work with their journey in faith.
Yes, I agree with you. I love it. Thank you so much. So now that we have gone through that, could you please now start telling us about this story that you're so grateful for and that you want to share?
Yes. Okay. So I think I'm going to start with the word redemption, because I think that has been one of the main words in my story, in my testimony. As I told you before, I was married before. I was in a different relationship in the past. And, after being through an experience that was, somewhat traumatic, and, it had its ups and downs, and mainly more lows than highs. It just shows how God can redeem anyone. It doesn't matter what you did, what wrong turns you took in your life, what bad
Yes.
decisions you made.
Yes.
There are so many things that can play, and I hope if someone is listening right now that they're trying to feel shame and guilt because they made a bad decision.
Yes.
There are so many things that play into that decision making. It's not just that maybe then we didn't have enough experience, or maybe we're not given the right tools to make those choices, or to
Yes.
make wiser choices in our life.
Yes. Yes.
It can be also that your background, your culture, sometimes also has, a little seed into that. While you're being formed, while you're growing up, and yeah, at the end, it's just like a little recipe, when you're trying to make something and you add the salt, the pepper, and the condiments, and the
Yes.
protein, and the broth, and everything. It's the same. It's like your culture, the way you were raised, your beliefs, the people that you surrounded yourself with, sometimes
Yes. Yes.
as well by choice and not by choice, because depending on the schools that you went to as well, you were
Right.
surrounded by certain people, certain teachers, everyone with different backgrounds, different beliefs. And
Yes.
all of that is shaping you and molding you until
Yes.
you get to that point where you're like, how did I get here? Like, seriously, when you ask yourself, like, I asked myself that question when I was there, and I was like, how did I get here? And I had to start. It reminded me of the message that we heard last Sunday, because you have to start asking yourself smart questions, and not the wrong questions,
Right.
to say, okay, I made a mistake. It's not the end of the world. I'm not the first one nor the last one to make this mistake. And there's a solution for everything
Yeah.
except death. And even for death, there is life after that when we believe
Right.
in Jesus, right?
Right. Right.
So we know that there's even a solution after that. It's just a different one. But while we're in this world, everything has a solution
Yes.
until our last breath. So
Yes.
I just had to start asking myself, okay, how did I end up in this bad relationship? How did I attract this person? What was it about me then that, made me maybe sometimes even like a little bit blinded to certain red flags, to certain behaviors? Why did I justify it? And you
Right.
have to seek help. Obviously, you have to seek God first
Yes.
and foremost. But
Yes.
as well, you have to seek help. It's very important that you have the help of a professional, because they are able to see everything from the outside, and also to, give you the proper help to take the steps necessary, whether the relationship can be fixed, or whether, you just need to literally take a step back and
Right.
say, okay, this is not for me. I don't think this is what God had planned for me, right?
Right. Right.
And in my particular situation, when the person doesn't want to be helped, or doesn't want to contribute to fix what's wrong, or doesn't see that something is wrong in their relationship, coming from, unfortunately, becoming an abusive relationship. It doesn't
Yes.
matter whether it's verbal or physical, for whoever is listening right now. There are, different types of violence. It doesn't
Yes.
matter. So when the person doesn't recognize there's a bigger issue here that we need to address, that we need to fix, and it can be fixed. It's just that the person has to be willing to want to fix it.
Right.
And that was not not in the cards for that relationship. So that's when obviously the help of a professional comes really handy, because then you're like, okay, I need to get out of this situation, because
Yes.
this doesn't have a future, clearly. And obviously be safe and protect yourself. So I did it. Thankfully, I was able to find the right people, the right therapists, and I think when you are at your lowest, or at least when you feel at your lowest, it may not look to other people like, oh, well, it's not that bad, but
Right.
you at that moment, you just feel like, okay, I hit rock bottom, like
Yeah.
There's nothing lower right now for me.
Yes.
Um, at least in my personal experience, I see it like there's no there's nothing to do but to turn to God, you know, to hang on for dear life to Jesus. And
Yes.
that's what I did. I was like, okay, I need Jesus more than ever in my life. Whatever life I led before this that led me here, I've always believed in God. I was raised in a Christian family. Nonetheless, I'm not afraid or nor ashamed to admit that I wasn't leading a very godly life after entering my teens in my early 20s, and that's what led me there. And I knew at that moment that I couldn't keep doing things the way I was doing it before. Like
Right.
something really radically had to change. And I lean on to God, I lean on to Jesus. I decided that I was going to take, as I told you, a whole year of just basically soul searching and just wanting to be closer to God and asking Him, okay, now that I'm out of this situation, what is it that you want me to do? Like, how can I use this bad experience for my good, for growth, for understanding, for helping someone else that might be in the same situation? And also, how can I rebuild my life? How can I please you
Yes.
by rebuilding my life again? You know?
Right. Because everybody is, on their best behavior.
Yes. And even if something arises, because sometimes things will arise, like at the end of the day, nobody's perfect. And even when you're traveling or you're doing something together, like an adventure, that's when you start getting to know each other. But still, you still see things, and I don't know, maybe it was just me, but I was just be like, okay, it's not that bad, like it's just stress, or I just like, touch the wrong, the wrong button or something, and then the wrong trigger, and I have mine as well. So, it's, you just kind of like start justifying things. And as
Yes.
well, you start comparing, which is the worst. I would say to anyone, please do not compare your relationship to anyone else's,
Right. Right. Right.
because you don't know what happens behind closed doors.
You do not. You're right.
And you don't either know what has been the journey for them to get to where they are.
Right.
And if the other person was willing to cooperate or understand that something needed to be fixed, maybe they did, maybe they didn't, you don't know.
Right.
So I started looking at like, oh, well, so and so in my family does that. So
Yes.
it's okay, no? Like, they still married, they seem
Yes.
fine, they seem like, they have children, whatever, they have a family, nothing bad can happen.
Right.
Right? Or even a friend is like, well, I know this person too, and she mentioned this stories here and there, and they seem fine. So then you start justifying all these little attitudes,
Yes.
and in my culture, unfortunately, drinking is it has been normalized too much,
Yes.
and also even the behavior of men in a certain way to just be dominant or to be like, the macho
Macho.
nature,
Yes.
so there's so many little aspects that have been normalized that when you are growing up you don't realize, so you just accept them and you're like, well, this is normal,
Right. Right.
like every guy's like that. And I didn't really thought it was that bad until, you know we were like actually close to get married.
Uh-huh.
But I feel like, that moment, and I cannot put the blame on anyone. It's just the emotions are so high that it just takes, I don't know, a lot of like level headedness to really know what to say to this person, like me coming and saying like, I want to call off the wedding. But looking back, I felt like I should have just listened to my gut, girl, because I already felt it. Like I already knew, like something in me, and it was probably God just telling me like, this is not the way. This is not like stop, you're heading into a, basically, when you're going for a car crash.
Wow.
And I just spoke to him, and, you know, um, he agreed to everything. He basically said all the things that I wanted to hear. And then I was like, okay. And since I didn't have anyone kind of like pushing a little bit more to kind of like, no, hey, if you wanted to call it off, like, listen to that feeling.
Right.
Listen to your gut, or pray more about it, and then
Yes.
seek Jesus and see what the Spirit tells you.
Mhm.
And so I just went with it. And like I said, long story short, we got married. Things started getting worse with his parents, and things started getting worse with him, with his attitude, with his behavior. And he started drinking more. He already drank. And like I said, in my eyes, unfortunately, because of the culture and because people surrounding me, it seemed normal.
Right.
Now, when I look back, I know that none of that is normal. Not even the people that I know is normal. But hey, you do you, boo. Like it's, um, but yeah. So he started drinking more, and that obviously started affecting our marriage and our relationship, because the more he would drink and the more that he was like stressed and trying to basically numb whatever he was feeling, because that's what he was trying to do. He was numbing everything that was happening around him with his parents. The more he would take it out on me.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so
So it would be verbal abuse?
it started with verbal abuse,
Mm-hmm.
and then it escalated with breaking things,
Uh-huh.
and then and then to like pulling you, holding you, from the arm too hard, to the point that you get like bruises, and you're like, whoa, like
Yes.
what's going on? And that's when I was like, that's when I really started like getting scared.
Yes.
Like, because even sometimes when someone like pulls you, like even if you were at a concert, and somebody would be like, somebody pushes you, and someone grabs you and grabs you really hard so you don't fall. With the rush of everything and the adrenaline, you don't even realize, right? Until next day, you're like, ow,
You feel pain.
my arm hurts, or like you notice a bruise. And it's like when we were, with the emotions high and everything and arguing or something, like if he was to like grab me from the arm, I sometimes wouldn't feel it at that moment, because I was upset and I had all these feelings. But then the next day I would wake up and I was like, okay, my arm hurts,
It's hurting.
and
Yes.
or my wrist hurts. And then I saw at some point the bruises, like just from grabbing me. So then I was like, okay, I'm not liking where this is heading. This
Right.
is not normal. Then this is like really the wake up call for me. Thankfully, I didn't have to get further
Yes.
than that. And I am very aware that I'm one of the lucky ones and one of the blessed ones that I didn't end up in a hospital, or,
Thank God.
or worse.
Right.
And at that point, I just felt so. See, the devil has such an interesting way to use that moment in your life, because I felt scared, but I also felt ashamed at the same time. And when I think about it, I'm like,
Why?
what? Why?
Why?
Why should I feel ashamed? I wasn't the one being aggressive. I
Right.
wasn't the one being abusive. I was trying to be there for him and to support him. And yes, I'm not perfect. Of course, I have my own things that probably annoyed him, like like everyone else. I'm not gold to be likable for
Right.
everyone.
Not perfect. We're not
I'm
perfect.
not perfect, but still, I was still trying, with all my imperfections, with all my problems and issues, to be there for this man in the best way I knew then.
Right.
And also to try to say, hey, wake up. Like, where are you heading? Like, where are you going? What is this? Like, what are you trying to do with your life? Because even if I'm not here, what are you trying to do with your life? Like, are you trying to get yourself killed? Are you trying to hurt yourself? Are you trying to, you know, like, it's not like, there has to be like a deeper issue. It cannot just be that you're just stressed because people are sick. I had to understand then that this was way deeper than just what was happening on the
On the
surface.
surface, yes.
So that's when I really started to like question so many things, and I ran and went to seek therapy, because I wanted to understand what was happening to this man,
Right.
and I wanted to understand what should I do, like, because my first instinct was like I just want to leave him, but I wasn't sure, like, you don't get married just to, you know, at,
Call it quits.
yeah, just to quit at the first, you know, big, let's call it issue. Um, and then, yeah, so I started to go to therapy. I asked him to go with me. He agreed, but he only agreed so I wouldn't ask him for a divorce, because I basically gave him an ultimatum and I said, if we don't start going to therapy, I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore. Because, like I said, if someone doesn't want to be helped, you have to save yourself, basically, because otherwise they're going to drag you and you don't know where you're going to end up. So at that point, I had to be a little selfish and say, okay, it's either him or me.
Right.
And yeah, I asked him, he agreed. And after 2 months, I think, of therapy, nothing was really changing. And my therapist told me in a private session without him, she said, Melissa, I cannot tell you obviously what we discussed, me and him,
Yes.
but what I can tell you is that he's just here so you are, yeah, so you don't leave. He's not making any effort. He's not putting in the work. He's not doing any of the things that I'm suggesting. And it's my responsibility to tell you that, because then it's up to you whether you want to stick it out or you want to part ways. And at that point, I just like, I just couldn't do it anymore. Like I said, you get to a point that you're not only physically tired, but you're like beyond mentally tired.
Right.
And I was both.
Yes.
Like, I even felt like my body was just trying to tell me something, because I was getting sick constantly.
Wow.
Like, the tiredness that I felt, like I couldn't wake up sometimes in the mornings. Like, it was just the heaviness, like, of wanting to open my eyes, kind of like when you're jet lagged, but without being jet lagged. And, every single day is like that.
Was
And
depression.
exactly.
Yes.
And I was still getting out of bed. Thankfully, I didn't reach the point where I wouldn't get out of bed. I was getting out of bed, getting out of the house, but my body was just in like this chronic fatigue.
Yes.
And yeah, and I was getting sick. I was getting the flu constantly, or the cough, or at one point I started getting bronchitis often as well. And, your body has many ways to tell you that
something is wrong.
Something is wrong. And I was like, okay, I got it. Like, these are too many at the same time. And I was like, okay, I got this. I need to leave. I didn't tell him anything. I basically just started planning everything privately, without giving him any warning, because I was not sure how things would play. And I just wanted to be safe, and didn't want to give him a reason to overreact, or I don't know, just anything. And so I did. I went, and when he was away working and everything, I would go and see the lawyer and ask questions and get my papers together and everything. And as Terry says, all my ducks in a row and everything. And I made a plan. And so, yeah, when I was ready, when I had everything ready, I just gave him the news, and thank God he did not react it. He was basically
blank, numb.
Like blank, like literally numb. There was no reaction, no comment, nothing.
Wow.
And he showed up the day we need to sign the papers. We signed the papers and we parted ways.
Right. So then once you parted ways, you said, now you were saying that you started soul searching and asking yourself the right
Well,
questions.
yes. And then I started my journey of redemption because
Yes.
obviously, I need to go through all the stages of grief as well
Yes.
in the best way possible or in the healthiest way possible. So I could like really feel that I heal and that I can move on
Mm-hmm.
and feel not only heal, but feel whole again.
Yes.
Feel like myself. Like, who is Melissa before I met this man? Because
Mm-hmm.
Melissa was already there.
Yes.
Who is she? Who is she now?
Yes.
Who I was before, but obviously you cannot be the same person before because now you've changed. You went
Exactly.
through something, so there's going to be a new version of you.
That's right.
So I was like, okay, how are these two people are going to come together and become this new me?
Yes.
So I started doing that, and I have I have a couple of Bible verses here that resonate with that time in my life. That is Psalms 107, verse 2. And it says, let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story, those he redeemed from the hand of the foe.
Uh-huh.
And redemption is about freeing ourselves
Yes.
from what holds us back and finding new life in a caring and loving God.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I needed to do.
Yes.
And so I drastically am aware that not everybody gets this opportunity and not everybody counts with all the support to do something like that. But I was very blessed to have all the support in the world, but from my family, so I was able to leave the country because at that point I didn't even want to be in the same country as this man. I
Yes.
didn't even want to be around anyone who knew me from that time in my life.
Yes. Yes.
I felt like
Yes.
I really needed a fresh start, like start from zero, where nobody knew who I was, what I'd been through, that would ask any questions, and it would just let me focus on me and Jesus.
Yes.
And I could just do that in peace, without everyone's opinions and comments. Because even though my family and my friends like mean well and meant well,
Mm-hmm.
not everybody knows how to deal with that kind of situation, with
Right.
like a divorce or with someone who's separated or going through something, and with the whole grieving process. And sometimes they're going to say the wrong things, not because they mean like to hurt you. It's just, you know, they don't know better
What to say.
and they don't know what to say. And they also have their own traumas and their own issues. And
Right.
those are also going to play a little bit into what my situation may trigger in them, especially my family.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I was like, okay, when the first month that I was there, I noticed those things and I was like, okay, not only do I want to leave because my ex, but I don't want to hear constantly all this chatter around me and distract me from what I'm meant to be doing now, which is heal.
Mm-hmm.
So once I remove all that noise,
Mm-hmm.
I was really able to listen to God's voice.
Mm-hmm.
And and yeah, it takes a lot of faith and a lot of perseverance
Mm-hmm.
to come out to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
I was fortunate enough to find Hilson in Paris. That's where I ended up, and I just really like went all in. Like I was like, sometimes I would. They used to have. I don't know if they still do. They used to have like 3 services. Sometimes I would attend the 3 of them in one day. Like sometimes if I didn't have like something else to do in my agenda that Sunday, and the message was really good, I would just like go through the 3 of them.
Wow.
Yeah, like that's how much I just like wanted to experience, being in the presence of God and just hearing His voice, and it did
Yes.
so much good to me. Like
Wow.
I cannot imagine myself going through that and not doing it the way that I did.
Yes.
I don't know where I would be,
Uh-huh.
and probably I wouldn't be enjoying all the blessings that I'm enjoying right now.
Yes.
because God has redeemed me beyond and has exceeded my expectations of what I thought my life was going to be after that, especially in the love area, you know.
Yes. Yes.
So I felt so broken that I wasn't, of course, I believe that Jesus can redeem, but I also felt like, am I ever going to feel okay to be with someone else? Even if I, you know, if I'm okay doing other things, I just wasn't sure if I was going to be able to trust someone again. And yeah, so I started serving as well at church, which did so much good as well. And I attended every conference that I could. I got involved in everything that I could. I have to say that Hillsong conference in London in 2018 was definitely like a pivot in my life, a pivotal moment. Um, because there was just something that happened in that conference. It was just, I just felt free after that. There was like a weight on me that
That
was
was
lifted
lifted.
in that conference. And I cry, I laugh, I jump, I clap, I did everything, and I just like let it out.
Yes.
And I didn't care who was looking. Like, you know, like they thought that I was like, you know, is this girl okay? You know, because I probably went through like 3 boxes of tissues. And you know, I worship and I praise and did everything that felt right at the moment. And I just felt so free after that. But here is the funny thing about my journey of redemption. I knew that I wasn't living a very godly life before. So I was like, okay, how can I do things different this time? If God is going to give me a second chance, I need to find a way to please Him too. Like, I cannot just be just about me. My actions have to say something. So that's when I came up with this rule for myself that I wasn't going to accept anyone's invitation from the opposite sex for a coffee or anything like that unless it was purely friendship. And if it seemed like it wasn't friendship for them, then I would just like stop right there and be like, I can't hang out with you again, you know, because, or I would ask them, I just confront them, be like, are you attracted to me? Because if you are, then we cannot be friends.
It was that drastic.
Yes, it was that drastic because, girl, I'm telling you, I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was, I don't know if it was just the enemy or just casualties or whatever, but my goodness, in that year, like there were so many guys at church that were so persistent.
Wow.
And even outside of church, like sometimes I was just enjoying my own company because I I learned during that year to just really enjoy my own company and
Yes.
like just sitting. I mean, imagine like being in Paris, sitting in a cafe, just enjoying yourself, having like an amazing cup of coffee and a pastry, and just my favorite activity when I go to Paris is just to people watch. You know, like you can just sit in a cafe and then you're like, yes, okay, this is peaceful. And then you can journal or you can listen to music, you can read a book. And yeah, it was part of my routine. And sometimes I would be just sitting there and then somebody would see that I was alone, you know, and approach me and be like, can I sit here? And I was just like, and God forgive me because sometimes I did lie. I was like, I said that I was waiting for a friend or for my roommate. And just so they wouldn't sit in my table or start doing small talk
Yes.
because I would just get so annoyed. I
Yes.
was like, I wanted to always be like, can't you see I'm trying to heal here? Like, leave me alone. Can you not read the room? Like my face and my attitude? Like, do I look approachable to you right now? No.
Oh my goodness.
So, you know, I try my best to have this like approachable like attitude, but I don't know, it just wasn't working. Like it wasn't working really. I don't know what was happening in the air then, but yeah, I just had some guys that they just kept coming and coming, and I was like, what? Like seriously?
What is
Like how
going on?
many times do you want to be rejected? So the whole year went by. I made it. I kept the promise that I made to God because it was also like a promise that I made with Him. I was like, God, like, this is what I'm offering this year, in hopes that by the end of this year, I just feel like myself again,
Yes.
or like an improved version of myself.
Yes.
And, and also, so you help me redeem myself and leave all this feeling of shame and guilt. And because that was what constantly the enemy was trying to bring back into my memories, and to keep replaying all these bad episodes from the past and from my relationship, and all the drama that I went through. And I just kept focusing in him, and it really saved my life. Because, yeah, at one point, I feel like you don't even realize, but at one point I was like, I just I just realized I wasn't thinking about those things, and I wasn't feeling guilty anymore, and I was actually okay to sometimes share my story already with people,
Wow.
to open
Wow.
up, because I
Wow.
would be, talking to a girl or something about like a situation they had, or a relationship, or about dating, and they would ask me, it's like, what about you? And then, at the beginning, I wasn't sharing really much about my personal life.
Right.
But then I realized I started getting comfortable saying, "Oh, well, I'm recently divorced, actually,"
Wow.
and people were shocked when I would say that,
Right.
because they were like, "Really?" Because, I mean, I don't know what they thought a divorced person looked like, or how they should be behaving, but they were very surprised.
Yes.
And sometimes I would ask more questions, more personal questions, and I was okay. Obviously, if it felt safe to
Yeah,
share,
of
I
course.
was
Yes.
I was okay to share with some people more details. And, yeah, and then next thing I knew, I started realizing that a lot of girls started coming to me for dating advice, or even for like mentioning certain experiences, that maybe they went on a date, and like they noticed that something felt wrong, and they were like, hey, so I went out with this guy, and then this and this happened,
What
and it
do you
just felt
think?
weird, and
Mm-hmm.
what do you think? I just want a second opinion,
Mm-hmm.
you know so that started happening a lot. And then I was like, okay, maybe this is what I'm meant to do right now, this season, of my life, to just help other girls in their dating life, or help them, be more aware of red flags,
Mm-hmm.
and to not lower the standards, and to really just stay strong. If you already felt something wrong, just trust it and stay strong with it. Like, don't get all like, just because he smiles, like, oh, okay, never mind. So forgotten. Um, so, yeah, so I was okay with that. I was actually like at peace. I wasn't even thinking like, oh yeah, I'm gonna start dating again. I was like, okay, maybe I'm meant to do this for a while, and then at some point, I guess I'll figure it out, what's going to be about my love life.
Yes.
And, God has a funny way to just sneak up on you, like, just has a good sense of humor.
He
And
does.
and I know it sounds so cliche, but it's really true. It happens when you least expect it.
Mm.
Because Lord knows I was not expecting that at all when I met my husband.
Mm.
I was on holiday with my family. Or I was on a winter holiday. I was so happy to see my family, and just to see the snow, and going for a ski trip, and doing fun things, and I was really enjoying myself that holiday. I felt like 13 going to 30. I really felt like I was like thriving, 30 and thriving, because I was already in my 30s. And I was like, okay, yes, I like this version. I like this me, like, I feel more confident. I feel at
Right.
peace.
Yes.
I feel calm. I was sleeping so well. And, I was working out, and enjoying Paris, and meeting people, and making friends, and making fun memories. And then next thing you know, I'm up in the mountain, trying to learn how to snowboard. And what do you know? I meet my husband.
How did you meet?
So he turned out to be my free lesson for snowboarding
Oh,
because I had a bad experience with the first one,
okay.
and they offered me a second class, which I was this close to not take. Actually, I was
Wow.
like, I decided to go last minute. I was still in bed. I was like, like it's winter. It's like -10, -15 outside,
I'm s-
and you have this like mountain of snow, and you're like so cozy in your hotel. You're like,
right.
I'm like, why would I want to go and fall like a million times, like um, up there with the snowboard and then be in pain later today when I can just chill here. I cannot reveal, unfortunately, this time too many details.
That's okay.
Because yeah, I'm working on something, and yeah, he turned out to be my free lesson for snowboard,
That's awesome.
and the rest is history. And I will leave the audience wanting more about that story. So when we we come up, with what we're cooking, let's call it right now, they get very interested in knowing what happens after.
Wonderful. I love it. And I see how you say that God has, he had a great sense of humor. And I guess, in this vow that God, that you made with God, he helped you honor it. You honored it. And right after is when he now brought you this wonderful gift disguised in just a normal situation that you almost missed.
I almost, and the funny thing is that I even joke about it with my cousin that morning because she was like staying with me in my room, and I got up and I said, okay, fine, let's do it. It's for free. What's the worst that can happen? If I don't like it, I leave the class earlier and I'll just come to the room. Um, and then I can't remember if it was her who said it first of me, but both of us started laughing because we said like, well, what if you meet a hot snowboarding instructor? Like you never know,
Wow.
like in the movies, like those holiday movies. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Like maybe I'm gonna meet my future, my future boyfriend or husband.
That is
And
so crazy that it actually happened.
and
Wow.
then I just went, and like I said, we'll leave the other details for later. But yeah, there was this history, and it happened after I did that all the like during that year, on the very last day of that year, on the 31st of that year.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. On the very last day of that year, of me making that promise, offering that to God, and
Yes.
saying, this is all I have right now. Because I literally had nothing. I had nothing left in me. When I arrived in Paris, I was broken. I was traumatized. I was hurt. I I felt ashamed. I felt guilt. I felt just all the wrong things. And I just felt like, who's going to love me? Who's going to want to be with me after this? Now I'm Mark, because now I have this label on me that says divorce,
Mm,
you know?
yes. Yes.
And they're going to start asking questions like, well, she got divorced. What's wrong with her? Maybe it wasn't the guy. Maybe it was her. All
Yes.
of the things that the devil puts in your mind.
In your mind.
Like, you actually start questioning all of the things that could be wrong with you. Why would someone new
Want to
even,
attach
yeah,
yourself to that.
exactly.
Yes.
And yeah, and I said, I have nothing. This is all I have to give right now. This is what I can offer. So I'm offering to you with all my heart in hopes that you redeem my life and that I can, also not only feel like myself, but that I can believe in love again
Yes.
and that the right man does exist and that you have someone special for me. No
Yes.
matter what I did in the past, no matter all the wrong decisions, all the wrong turns, and no matter that I have this label.
I love it. Melissa, thank you so much. There's so many nuggets that you shared with us, so many lessons to learn. You talked about not ignoring the red flags. You talked about redemption. You talked about hope, and you talked about how honoring your vows, making vows to God, decided to do things right and learning from your mistakes, staying away so you can heal. There's so much that you brought on the table today, and I really want to thank you so much for being open with us, and I can't wait for whenever you're ready for part two. But I wanted to ask you in a few words, what would you say to someone who may be heading towards divorce, or who has actually gone through divorce, and who feels how you felt? What would be a piece of advice that you would give that person?
I would say that as you continue in your journey of faith, that you may find redemption in his words. That because we are given the opportunity to cast off our past, like our past mistakes, and turn our focus towards the future instead. And God is a God of love and a God of grace and a God of forgiveness. He's not a God of shame, of guilt, of condemning someone. Like none of those are words of God's vocabulary. He's not here to punish you. So you don't need to punish yourself anymore. Stop punishing yourself.
That's really good.
That's what the devil wants. He wants to punish you. He wants to shame you. He doesn't want you to discover what redemption is and what God can do and how much he can restore in your life and exceed your expectations. Because I am proof of that. And he will try to hold you hostage to your thoughts for as long as he can. So it's up to you to step boldly in faith and to surround yourself by the right people, and if possible, because I know not everybody can sometimes afford therapy, but to try to find some sort of counseling. You sometimes cannot afford maybe therapy, but you can seek counseling at church as well. With your pastors, with your leaders. Find someone that you can trust, and just know that God has something for you. He doesn't want you to stay in this relationship suffering. Yes, there will be relationships that are worth fixing, and then they are meant to be fixed. Right. But that's why it's so important to surround yourself by the right people, because then you will know when it's time to walk away. When there is something to save, and when there's just no point of return. And you have to save yourself. And please don't be afraid to ask for help. If something starts to get very dangerous, please, just anyone, if you don't feel comfortable, or if you feel ashamed, because you can feel that sometimes even with your own family, to speak to someone, to your family, just anyone. That's why counselors and people at church can be sometimes the best people to approach for that, because they're not your direct family.
Yes.
So you may not feel so ashamed or scared to say something. So I just encourage everyone to just to be honest with yourself as well.
Right.
Because it starts with honesty with yourself. To say, how did I get here? What needs to change? How can I change this? And whatever is happening, it's not forever.
Right.
It's not forever.
Right.
You're not going to stay in that place forever. But it's also up to you to remove yourself from that.
Right.
No one else can do it for you if you don't want to do it yourself. Because people can advise you, people can tell you, people can warn you. But if you're not willing to do the work, and if you're not willing to recognize that you need to, step aside, then you may end up staying in that situation longer than you should. And then the return ticket, there's a saying that the longer you stay on, like let's call it on a train ride, the more expensive it will be to grab your return ticket. Because the longer you go on the journey, you go a few stations, it'll be easier to come back.
Right. Wow. That's really deep. Thank you so much. All right. Well, there you have it. Thank you so much. This was so insightful. Thank you. My mind is blown. So let me ask you this, because we have to wrap up at this point, and it will be our pleasure to have you back. Would you be willing to have to come back so that we can get more out of you whenever you are ready?
Thank you. My pleasure. And yeah, we had like a nice exchange. So I'm happy. Yeah. Happy to.
Thank you so much. So we'll put the details in the description so that you can know how to contact her. So again, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for watching today. I really thank you. And until we meet next time, may you have a blessed day. Bye.
You too. God bless you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Science of Gratitude podcast. If this episode resonated with you, please subscribe, share it, and leave us a review. Your support helps us keep spreading the power of gratitude. And until next time, stay grateful. God bless you.